I'm 78 years old now. I didn't plan on making it this long, and I certainly didn't plan on finally understanding things this late. But here I am, sitting alone most mornings, realizing how much of my life I misunderstood while I was busy living it. For a long time, I thought understanding came with age automatically, like wisdom was something you earned just by surviving enough years. Turns out, you can live a very long time and still miss the point. These days, time feels different. It's thinner. It doesn't stretch out ahead of me anymore. It sits close, almost shoulder to shoulder with me, reminding me that there won't be another version of myself down the road to correct things. I wake up early, not because I want to, but because my body insists. The house is quiet in a way it never used to be, not the peaceful kind, the empty kind. And in that quiet, memories come back uninvited. When I was younger, I was always in motion, always building something, chasing something, fixing something that wasn't really broken. I told myself that was responsibility, that was being a man, that was doing what mattered. I was wrong. In my 20s, I was proud of how busy I was. I wore exhaustion like proof of character. Long hours, late nights, missed dinners. I thought those were temporary sacrifices for a future that would eventually slow down and reward me. I kept saying, later. Later we'll take that trip. Later I'll spend more time at home. Later I'll sit and listen instead of checking the clock. Later always felt guaranteed. In my 30s, life filled up quickly. Career, mortgage, kids, obligations stacked neatly on top of each other. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't absent in the dramatic ways people warn you about. I was just distracted, physically present, mentally elsewhere. I remember coming home tired, sitting at the table while my kids talked. I nodded, I smiled, I half listened. I told myself it was enough. It wasn't. At the time, I thought providing was the same thing as loving. If the bills were paid, if the fridge was full, if the roof didn't leak, then I was doing my job. I didn't realize love needs attention more than it needs structure. My wife used to ask simple things. Can we talk tonight? Can you stay home this weekend? Can you listen for a minute? They sounded small to me then. Interruptions, things that could wait. So often I told her, after this project, or once things settle down. I genuinely believed things would settle down. They never do. I didn't notice the exact moment we stopped being close. That's the dangerous part. You don't feel the distance growing day by day. You only see it once it's already too wide to step across easily. In my 40s, I started to feel restless. Not unhappy exactly, just unsettled. I had what I thought I wanted: respect at work, stability, a sense of accomplishment. But there was a quiet hollowness I couldn't name, so I worked more. I told myself purpose lived there. My kids grew while I was busy proving things that didn't need proving anymore. I missed ordinary moments, not milestones, but the small stuff: inside jokes, daily routines, the sound of who they were becoming. One day they stopped waiting for me to be available. They adapted. Kids are good at that. By the time I noticed, they were already halfway out the door of childhood. My wife and I became efficient partners. We coordinated schedules, paid bills, managed logistics. But intimacy faded quietly, without an argument to mark its passing. I wish I could point to a single mistake, one clear wrong turn. But the truth is worse than that. It was 1,000 reasonable choices that slowly cost me everything that mattered most. Then came the moment that finally slowed me down. I was in my late 50s when my closest friend died. Heart attack, no warning. We had grown up together, shared beers, stories, dreams we never fully chased. I always assumed there'd be time to catch up properly. A longer conversation someday. At the funeral, I stood there listening to people talk about him in the past tense, and it hit me, hard, that this could just as easily be me. Not someday, any day. For the first time, the future didn't feel endless. It felt fragile. I went home that night and sat in the dark. No TV, no phone, just me and the sound of my own breathing. I started to see my life not as a plan, but as a trail already walked. Some paths were solid, others were barely visible, and some important ones were never taken at all. I tried then to change. I really did. I talked more. I showed up more. But by then, patterns were set. Distance had history. You can't always undo decades with good intentions. My kids were adults with their own lives. They loved me, I know that. But our relationship had limits shaped long ago. My marriage survived, but it never fully healed. We were kind to each other, polite, familiar. But some closeness, once lost, doesn't come back the same. And now, in my late 70s, the days are quiet, too quiet. I measure time differently now, by doctor visits, by who still calls without needing a reason. I've outlived some friends, lost touch with others. The circle grows smaller whether you want it to or not, and in this stillness, the truth finally became clear to me. What really mattered was never what I thought. It wasn't the titles, it wasn't the reputation, it wasn't the constant push to be more, earn more, prove more. What mattered were the moments I treated as ordinary, sitting at the table without rushing, listening without planning my response, choosing presence when productivity felt more impressive. What mattered were people, not in big gestures, but in daily attention. I thought love was sturdy. I didn't realize how much maintenance it needs. I thought time was generous. I didn't understand how quietly it slips away when you assume it's waiting for you. There are things now that can't be fixed, conversations that will never happen, versions of myself my children never got to know, a younger marriage that exists only in memory. That's a heavy thing to carry. But there's also a strange clarity in it. When you finally stop running, you can see what you were running from, and what you were running past. If you're listening to this and you're younger than me, I won't tell you what to do. I don't believe in preaching from the end of the road. I'll only say this: be careful what you postpone. Be careful what you assume will still be there when you're ready. Life doesn't usually take things from you all at once. It takes them slowly while you're busy elsewhere. I still have moments of gratitude, a warm afternoon, a call from one of my kids, a memory that makes me smile instead of ache. But I live with the understanding that I learned late, and that understanding is simple, even if it took me 50 years to grasp. What really matters isn't what fills your schedule, it's who fills your quiet. And when the noise fades, and it will, that's what you're left with. If this meant something to you, maybe sit a little longer with someone today. Not because you're afraid of regret, just because you can. As for me, I sit here, mornings stretching gently in front of me, accepting the life I lived, grateful for what I had, and quietly wishing I had noticed sooner.